Cunningham took a jab at Caitlin Clark's newest WNBA foes by signing a J.C. Sheldon trading card with a rather humorous message written across the fans' collectible.
Sophie Cunningham just turned the WNBA into her own personal Fight Club moment, putting J.C. Sheldon in her place after that cheap shot on Caitlin Clark. But here's what nobody's telling you. This isn't about teammate loyalty. This is about the most calculated brand manipulation move in WNBA history. And Sophie just exposed her true intentions with Clark in a way that changes everything. I'm Jackson Riley, and I've been filtering through the digital breadcrumbs of this story for weeks. What I found will make you question everything you thought you knew about Sophie Cunningham's so-called protection of Caitlin Clark. Because the signals point to something much more strategic, much more calculating, and frankly, much more brilliant than simple teammate solidarity. Before we dive into this rabbit hole, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. You're going to want to see what happens when I connect the dots nobody else is willing to follow. And let me know in the comments, after watching this, do you think Sophie's been playing 4D chess this whole time? Here's what we're uncovering today. The temperature of the online conversation around Sophie Cunningham has shifted dramatically in the past month, and it's not just about her becoming Clark's enforcer. We're talking about a systematic brand evolution that's turning her from a supporting character into the most valuable social media asset in women's basketball. The property of Sophie Cunningham autograph incident? That wasn't spontaneous teammate protection. That was strategic content creation. And I have the receipts. So let's start with what everyone thinks they know. June 17, 2025. J.C. Sheldon pokes Caitlin Clark in the eye. Marina Mabrey shoves Clark to the floor after the whistle. Sophie Cunningham retaliates with a flagrant foul on Sheldon, gets a $400 fine, and suddenly becomes Clark's unofficial bodyguard. Nice story. Clean narrative. Perfect for content creators who want easy material. But here's where the story gets interesting. Sophie didn't just get a fine that day. She got something worth exponentially more. She got a brand transformation that marketing agencies valued at over $1 million. In 3 days following that incident, Sophie gained 700,000 TikTok followers and 244,000 Instagram followers. That's not teammate loyalty paying off. That's calculated controversy monetization. Now, fast forward to August. We get the viral autograph moment that everyone's been talking about. Sophie signs a J.C. Sheldon trading card with property of a Sophie Cunningham. The internet explodes. Memes everywhere. Fever fans treat her like a hero. But the temperature of the online conversation reveals something competitors are missing entirely.
Crazy. When you get Sophie Cunningham to sign a J.C. Sheldon rookie card with property of, that is crazy. That is crazy.
That reaction right there, that's not just surprise. That's recognition of strategic brilliance. But here's what they missed in that clip, and what every other channel covering this story has overlooked completely. The autograph moment wasn't Sophie's idea. It was orchestrated by a fan named Brady Pettigrew from Anderson, Indiana, working with his sister, Tristan. They specifically brought that J.C. Sheldon card to the fan event, specifically asked Sophie to write something provocative on it, and specifically documented the moment for viral distribution. Sophie didn't spontaneously decide to claim ownership over J.C. Sheldon. She participated in a pre-planned viral content creation strategy designed by sophisticated WNBA fans who understand exactly how modern sports marketing works. And Sophie? She played along perfectly, because she understands something most players don't. Controversy plus personality equals influence, and influence equals independence. This brings us to the question nobody's asking, but everyone should be. Why is Sophie Cunningham, who built her entire viral brand on protecting Caitlin Clark, now taking subtle jabs at Clark herself? 3 weeks ago, Sophie posted about opposing swimsuit sponsorship promotions, specifically mocking Clark's skin tone. Last week, she made pointed comments about the GOAT debate that seemed designed to diminish Clark's achievements. These aren't accidents. These aren't slip-ups. These are calculated moves by someone who's built $1 million social media presence and now needs to establish her independence from the person who inadvertently helped create it.
Cunningham has been Caitlin Clark's biggest cheerleader and defender.
And it literally pisses me off when people are like, she's not the face of the league.
Who would be?
What? When people try to argue that she's not the face of our league, or if our league would be where we're at without her, you're dumb as You're literally dumb as
The sad truth about this video we just watched is she is the first WNBA player I have seen to openly say this out loud, publicly, and not be ashamed in declaring it. Caitlin Clark is the reason we have been talking about the WNBA. Hate it or love it, it's true. I don't believe that Caitlin Clark necessarily wants that title that everyone has been giving to her. I think she just wants to be appreciated. And Sophie Cunningham, she just seems like such a real one, such a good friend. I think especially with women, especially elite level athletes, there's a lot of people, women, who will kind of stab you in the back. There's a lot of jealousy, a lot of resentment, especially when you're good. But Sophie just seems like such a girl's girl. I really, really like her. Maybe Caitlin Clark should do the next American Eagle campaign.
Listen to that again. Sophie defending Clark as the face of the league, calling people literally dumb for denying it, talking about jealousy among elite female athletes. This was Sophie positioning herself as Clark's most vocal advocate. But notice something crucial. In that commentary, Sophie's not just defending Clark. She's analyzing the psychological dynamics of women's athletics, demonstrating the kind of insight that builds independent credibility. That analysis about female athletes stabbing each other in the back, that wasn't just about other players. That was Sophie establishing herself as different, as someone who understands the metagame better than her peers. And now, just months later, she's demonstrating exactly that understanding by strategically distancing herself from Clark to build her own brand architecture. The merchandising numbers tell the real story here. Sophie Cunningham jerseys sold out within days of the June incident. The Black Belt Barbie nickname spawned an entire unofficial merchandise ecosystem. Multiple websites now sell Sophie-branded content that has nothing to do with Caitlin Clark. Her podcast, Show Me Something, features explicit language and unfiltered commentary that positions her as a WNBA insider rather than just Clark's teammate. But here's where this gets even more calculating. Sophie's recent Clark criticism isn't random negativity. It's strategic brand differentiation. She's identified that her association with Clark was a stepping stone, not a destination. The $1 million organic growth gave her the platform. Now she's using that platform to establish independent viral coefficient. The signals from her digital presence are unmistakable. Sophie's TikTok content increasingly focuses on her personality, her background, her perspectives, not her role as Clark's protector. Her Instagram engagement rates on non-Clark content actually outperform her Clark-related posts. She's building an audience that follows Sophie Cunningham, not Caitlin Clark's teammate.
Tomorrow, you're on the Las Vegas Strip. What can the Las Vegas expect from Sophie?
Oh, you know what? I'm just gonna be me. I don't go in there trying to predetermine anything. I'm dialed in. I need to focus on hitting my shots, making sure I'm executing the schemes right. I'm not focused on the extracurricular activities. And you know what? During that, it was just part of the game. I think the refs had a lot to do with that. It was a build-up for a couple of years now of them just not protecting, the star player of the WNBA. And so, at the end of the day, I'm going to protect my teammates. That's what I do, and I'm a team player. So.
That right there is Sophie confirming her strategic mindset. I'm going to protect my teammates, but notice how she frames it. This isn't emotional loyalty. This is calculated team strategy. I'm a team player, followed by criticism of referees and systematic league problems. Sophie's positioning herself as someone who understands WNBA power dynamics better than the officials themselves. Now, let's connect some dots that nobody else is following. The systematic targeting of Caitlin Clark that Sophie initially responded to? That controversy has reached unprecedented levels. We're talking about ESPN directly criticizing WNBA officiating. Rebecca Lobo publicly calling out referee bias during live broadcasts. Allegations that Commissioner Adam Silver exploded after evidence of systematic targeting emerged. Sophie's enforcement role put her at the center of a controversy that's now reaching federal civil rights investigation discussions. Her initial protection of Clark wasn't just teammate loyalty, it was positioning herself as a key figure in the most significant officiating scandal in WNBA history. And now that she's established that credibility, she's leveraging it for independent brand building. The business implications here are staggering. Sophie's calculated evolution from enforcer to social media maven to independent brand architect represents a masterclass in modern athlete influence building. She used Caitlin Clark's target status to build her own platform, then used that platform to establish independence from Clark. But here's what makes this truly strategic rather than opportunistic. Sophie's background includes earning a black belt in Taekwondo at age 6, being the first female to score points for her high school football team as a kicker, growing up on a Missouri farm with Ma Ma and Pa Pa. This isn't someone who stumbled into viral fame. This is someone with a lifelong pattern of breaking barriers and controlling narratives. The property of Sophie Cunningham autograph moment? That wasn't teammate protection. That was Sophie claiming intellectual property rights over a viral moment, establishing herself as the controller of that narrative rather than just a participant in it. She literally branded herself onto J.C. Sheldon's rookie card, creating a collectible that represents her dominance over that storyline. And here's where the temperature of the online conversation gets really interesting. Fever fans love Sophie for protecting Clark, but Sophie's growing fan base increasingly follows her for her personality, her unfiltered commentary, and her strategic social media presence. She's building an audience that transcends team loyalty. The sophistication of modern WNBA fans is something content creators consistently underestimate. Brady Pettigrew orchestrating the autograph moment reveals fans who understand viral content, creation, strategic timing, and athlete brand building. They're not just consuming content, they're manufacturing viral moments and positioning their favorite players for maximum impact. Sophie recognizes this fan sophistication, and she's playing to it. Her recent Clark criticism isn't alienating her fan base. It's demonstrating independence and strategic thinking that her followers appreciate. They don't want a simple teammate protector. They want a complex personality who understands media manipulation and isn't afraid to use it. Now, the question everyone should be asking is what happens next? Sophie's evolution from protector to independent brand architect sets up several fascinating storylines. Will she continue distancing herself from Clark? Will the Fever's team chemistry survive her strategic brand differentiation? How will Clark respond to her former protector becoming a subtle critic? But here's the bigger question, and this is where reading the signals becomes crucial. Is Sophie Cunningham pioneering a new model for WNBA player brand building? Using controversy to build platform, using platform to establish independence, using independence to control narrative rather than being controlled by it? The evidence suggests Sophie's not just building a personal brand. She's building a blueprint for how savvy WNBA players can leverage viral moments for long-term influence rather than short-term popularity. The calculated nature of her moves, from the enforcement retaliation to the autograph participation to the recent Clark criticism, demonstrates systematic, strategic thinking. And if I'm reading the digital breadcrumbs correctly, we're about to see other WNBA players adopting similar strategies. The league's increased visibility means increased opportunities for individual brand building, and Sophie's demonstrating how to capitalize on those opportunities through calculated controversy rather than traditional athletics excellence alone. The FBI federal investigation angle adds another layer to this story. Sophie's enforcement actions contributed to evidence of systematic targeting that's now reaching legal scrutiny levels. Her role in exposing referee bias and protection failures gives her credibility as a WNBA reform advocate, not just an individual, player-building personal brand. That credibility allows her to criticize the league, criticize officiating, and even criticize fellow players, including Clark, from a position of authority rather than jealousy. She's established herself as someone who understands WNBA power structures better than most, and she's using that understanding strategically. The merchandising explosion around Sophie also reveals something important about WNBA fan psychology. Fans aren't just buying black belt Barbie shirts because they're cute. They're buying into a personality that represents strategic thinking, calculated confidence, and unapologetic self-advocacy. Sophie's brand represents what many fans want to see more of in women's athletics. But here's where the meta-narrative gets really interesting. Sophie's calculated distance from Clark might actually benefit both players long-term. Clark gets to establish independence from having a bodyguard, while Sophie gets to build brand architecture that isn't dependent on protecting someone else. It's strategic evolution that serves both their interests. The timing of Sophie's moves also suggests sophisticated understanding of viral content cycles. The autograph moment happened during peak summer social media engagement. Her recent Clark criticism coincides with increased WNBA playoff attention. She's not just creating content. She's optimizing timing for maximum impact. This brings us to what I believe is the real revelation here. Sophie Cunningham isn't betraying Caitlin Clark. She's demonstrating how modern athletes can use strategic controversy to build sustainable influence rather than temporary popularity. The betrayal narrative misses the sophisticated brand architecture she's constructing. Official sources won't tell you this, but if you follow the digital breadcrumbs, a different picture emerges. Sophie's evolution represents the most successful athlete brand transformation in recent WNBA history. From supporting character, to enforcement icon, to independent social media maven, to calculated brand architect, all in less than 6 months. The 3-year business implications extend beyond individual player branding. Sophie's success demonstrates how WNBA players can leverage viral moments for long-term influence building. Her model combines athletic skill, strategic controversy, personality-driven content, and calculated timing in ways that create sustainable fan base growth. And that model is now being studied by marketing agencies working with other WNBA players. Sophie didn't just build a personal brand, she created a template for how savvy athletes can control their narratives rather than being controlled by them. So, what's fact and what's speculation here? The facts are clear. Sophie's social media growth, her merchandising success, her recent Clark criticism, her strategic participation in viral content creation. The speculation is whether this represents calculated brand architecture or organic personality evolution. But the signals strongly suggest calculation over coincidence. The timing, the sophistication, The systematic nature of her moves all point to strategic thinking rather than spontaneous reactions. Sophie Cunningham is playing a longer game than most people realize. The temperature of the online conversation around this story will continue heating up as more people recognize the strategic sophistication behind Sophie's moves. This isn't simple teammate drama. This is a masterclass in modern athlete influence building. And here's what other channels won't tell you. Sophie's success is making other WNBA players reconsider their own brand strategies. The league's increased visibility creates opportunities for individual players to build sustainable influence, and Sophie's demonstrating how to capitalize on those opportunities through strategic controversy management. That brings us to the inevitable question: what happens when more WNBA players adopt Sophie's model? When calculated controversy becomes standard practice rather than exceptional strategy, the league dynamics could shift dramatically toward individual brand building over traditional team loyalty. But that's exactly the kind of evolution that drives engagement, creates storylines, and builds the kind of personality-driven narratives that transform sports leagues from athletic competitions into entertainment empires. Sophie Cunningham isn't just building her own brand, she's pioneering the future of WNBA player marketing. So, here's my question for you, and I want to hear your thoughts in the comments. After seeing the evidence of Sophie's calculated brand evolution, do you think she's a strategic genius who's revolutionizing athlete marketing, or do you think this analysis gives her too much credit for what might just be natural personality development? Because the way you answer that question reveals a lot about how you understand modern sports marketing and athlete influence building in the social media age. Drop your analysis in the comments. I read every single one, and the best insights often come from you, the narrative analysts who see patterns that traditional sports media misses completely. If this investigation into Sophie's strategic evolution opened your eyes to something new, smash that like button and share this with someone who needs to understand how modern athlete branding actually works. And make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, because we're just getting started uncovering the stories behind the stories in WNBA culture. The metagame is always more interesting than the surface narrative, and Sophie Cunningham just proved that in spectacular fashion. Thanks for following the digital breadcrumbs with me. I'll see you in the next investigation.